Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Atomic Cast. We're on episode 38. We're going to try to do something slightly different. We're going to do the top tips for new Middle-earth SBG players. So what I've done is I've recruited some new Middle-earth SBG players. If you don't know, I'm Tom. I've been playing for a little while now, probably like 20 odd years. I don't know. Ben.
Hello.
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 How long have you been playing for? What do you normally play with, and what's your?
I have been playing Middle-earth for about a year and a half. I predominantly play Hunter Orcs, just like throwing those boys around. Army of Thor, and then Scouts are my main go-tos.
Nice. Sorry, I'm pressing buttons. We love our Boy Scouts.
Do just to move 8. Just move. You don't need horses.
Yeah. Just run fast. And Jordan, how long
Hello,
have you been
Jordan.
playing for, sir?
I have been playing for like 6 months at most. Main army is Army of Gothmog, but I am branching out into Lothlorien and Lurtz's scouts.
Ooh,
Again, move 8. Like, why not?
you just want to go fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got going for our little top tips today. We've got some things. Jordan's obviously quite new, so we're gonna see how he reacts to some of these tips. Maybe it's things he's already started to pick up on himself. Maybe it's not. But before we get too deep in it, there's a few like just general things for everything. One of which I think I probably banged on and on and on that you bet about when you first started playing. Just keep sticking to the same army over and over again. People do it an awful lot when they start like trying to flick between like 5 different armies just to see what they like and all that. And that's nice, but you end up with no idea what you're doing with that army. Once you've found an army that's like, stick to it and learn how it plays. And if you try an army one time, it might not work, but like keep sticking to that one army, and yeah, you should find that you get way better.
I think because the problem is when you're new to the hobby, because you can do it with such a low model count, you look at all the armies and you're like, oh, I could just get a box of them and try that out. And then you play someone else and they've got a cool army and they look nice, and you're like, oh, I could try those out as well. And yeah, like you said, you just flip back and forwards. You're too spoiled. And I think it's just the curse of any wargamer is you just want everything. You just want to own everything and play everything, but you just don't have time for all of that. And it does take quite a lot to just just stick to one and be like, I'll persevere with this.
In fairness, like Tom said exactly the same to me when I first started. He's like, do 10 games with the same army, and like first 5 games, you're getting tanked. Like whoever you play against, they're just going to table you. You're going to lose the scenario, but like you'll take something away from every game. So like now I'm winning games with my Army of Gothmog. Not many because Army of Gothmog, but still like winning games with them. But like you get better, and then you realize what you're missing and what you want to add in the future, and that's when like you can start looking at moving on to other armies.
Yeah, and I think we're all quite guilty. Like you bring your new army, you play your game, and like you said, you're in your mind, you're like, this is amazing, I've got this, I can absolutely crush. Then you got absolutely stomped by someone, and it kind of just puts you off playing that army. But in actual fact, potentially could have been a better player, could have been a really bad scenario. The role, like, there's so many variables as to why it might not have been great. And I think some people like play that game and then just instantly move on. And it's like, no, play different scenarios, play different games with them, and they like you'll probably find your flow.
I wish we still had the group chat message from like 3 or 4 years ago now, where I went on a little meltdown after some local tournament about how much I hated Goblin Town. I hated running hordes. I would never ever use a horde army ever again. It's the worst army in the game. Goblin Town are awful. I don't know how anyone could ever win with them. This is pre-COVID, and then like I took them to a tournament like the next week and won it. And I was like, sounds cool. Maybe they're all right. Who knows? But I was playing locally against Black Dominorians and Army of the Dead and something else with Terror. And I was like, this is awful. And then we went away to see someone else and we had a great time and it was lovely. And now I quite like my Goblin Boys.
Now you just don't want to not hoard.
Yeah, honestly, who plays with 20 models?
You've made Horde the meta in Swindon. That's what you've done.
If there's not 100 models on the board between you and your opponents, like, is there any point?
Are you even playing MESBG?
And the other big like overall thing, which is like sounds silly, but just go play the game. Like, just keep playing the game. If we see a lot of people who come in and they'll play like one game every couple of weeks, if that, and it's really hard to keep things sticking in your head when you do that. But I mean, we're all quite guilty of it here, where you will play like Ben, you play like 5 games a week sometimes, just to like.
Yeah, well, I just set my
like, oh, give me the games.
I set myself a personal mission to play as many games as I could, but I have got to a point of trying to crack as many games into that Thursday night, coming home and being like just a wreck of a person, needing a strong lay down and just being a bit broken. So, but yeah, I do agree. You just need to play as many games as possible, because you do pick up so much from those games as you go. I remember our first ever game, Tom. We played Domination. I was using Isengard. I think I had like 6 berserkers. I had 6 berserkers, and you were playing with Minas Tirith. I just got absolutely rinsed. But I still had an enjoyable time, and I like using the stuff. But it was very
thing to do to people in new games, isn't it, Jordan?
Yeah. But it was very clear to me very early on. I was like, oh, this is where I went wrong. I didn't leave a lad on any of the objectives, because I'd come from playing game like historical war games, and I'd come from like 40k, where like the scoring system was so completely different that you just need to sort of wrap your head around the sort of like small nuances of like, oh, this is how you score in MESBG.
Yeah, it's definitely like you say, play as many games as you can. Like, I try and come down every Thursday, get as many games in on a Thursday. Like, you'll get better and try and play different people. I know I'm very guilty of playing Henry every week, but like, who wouldn't want to play with Henry every week? He's the nicest man on the planet. But like, yeah, get as many games against as many different people and different armies, and always be open to just saying yes to whatever your opponent's going to bring. Like, yeah, one day you're going to face the Bears and they're going to absolutely tear through you, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But like, the next time you play Bears, you know what you're playing against.
Exactly that. Ben has accidentally touched on topic number 1 on my list.
Sorry, mate. I'm sorry.
No, you've done it. You've done it beautifully. It's all right. Look at that. It was almost like it was rehearsed, except we don't rehearse things here. So my first like big official top tip is manage the end game. I was hoping Jordan was going to say it as well. I tossed it up, teed it up for it. In our first game, Jordan, we played Hold Ground, didn't we? Something like
that? Yes, we played Hold Ground, Tom.
And what happened in your game of Hold Ground, Jordan?
It was a Maelstrom deployment. So I rolled up on one of the flanks with most of my army, and Tom had one warband there. And I thought it was a great idea to absolutely smash that warband out of existence, which I did. But it then gave Tom the rest of his army the ability to hold the ground, as it were, in the middle and just block me from getting anywhere near it. So Tom won the scenario by just letting his force break, but not letting me anywhere near the middle. So yeah,
I've become a massive fan of winning games like Heirlooms by simply having the objective and then just killing yourself, and making sure that So the first like big thing on it is to know exactly when the end game is, because that's the big thing. So by that we mean when it's like, when does the game end? Is it 50%, and you start running those 1s or 2s? Is it at 25%? And like, be ready for that situation. So again, another thing I came up to you on Thursdays, and I said, like, oh, I love that. John had a little like tally chart on his board, and he was crossing them off every time someone died, so he knew exactly how far away he was from things. And a lot of people don't do it. It's kind of like, oh, when am I broken? Oh, I don't know. We'll find out.
Nice, so handy. Keep
and
a
if you
track
watch
of it.
anyone up at the top ends, they're constantly tallying down how many people are being killed, so you know exactly when that's going to happen. And that's not just your own, but also your opponents. I'm sure we've all done it, where we thought we were winning the game, we're absolutely smashing through someone, and then you go, oh, hang on, wait, objectives.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it, aside from a few specific scenarios, a lot of people very early on, especially, attribute completely killing their opponent's stuff as quickly as possible to them just doing well and like winning the game. When in actual fact, the more experienced person is probably sat like, Tommy was sat there watching goblins die in their absolute droves, thinking, "Yeah, I'm set up perfectly. I'm ready for the game to end." You crack on killing the lads because it's just helping me out.
There's a rather glorious battle report me and Bert did the other day, with Moria goblins against Moria dwarfs, and I think the goblins killed 4 dwarfs or something over the whole thing, but won the game because it's just dying on objectives.
Yeah, it just sets it up.
Yeah, there's a few.
That's actually,
Go,
sorry,
John.
go on.
No, you go.
No, I was going to say it's interesting because like I learned that lesson playing you in whole ground, and then I played a league game where we played heirlooms, and I got the heirloom, and then it was just like I need to break now, just hold that heirloom and break, and it was purely because like I played the objective.
There's a few yeah, there's a few big ways of like how best to do this. So one of them is the really unsexy way, which is shielding. Lots of people kind of think of shields as, oh yeah, it puts my defense up, but it gives you that access to shielding special rule. And shielding is when you know that your opponent's getting like just on the edge of breaking, but you're not ready to go and get on the objectives now. You can start shielding, you can avoid killing them because you're now doing non-lethal strikes. And it's a really effective way of just kind of prolonging the game a little bit. Because so many people just accidentally break their opponent, then the game ends, and they go, "Oh, if I'd had one more turn." Or, so shielding's a really big one with that.
The army of throwers out there with your really expensive grim hammers, bash everything, just knock people on the floor, and be like, "Yeah, that's their strike done." Then they're not hurting you; you're just on the floor now.
Any way you can go non-lethal strikes is great. Yeah. There's also the old classic, the opposite way, which is if you really want the game to end, and the Goblin Town, I assume you do it with Hunter Orcs as well. Sometimes Master going from 50% to 25% in one turn, which is the which order are you going to roll as courage tests in? Are you going to roll the warriors or are you going to roll the heroes? And if you want the game to end, start rolling your warriors until you you have enough to end the game, and then you can take your stand fast and keep your heroes around. But letting the courage 2 warriors all fail and run away.
I had a situation at a tournament where I was playing Destroyer Supplies against Bears. I'd got to a point where I was like, I had more points than the Bears player. I was like, I need to get it to end as quickly as possible. So I just started throwing Hunter Orcs into the worst possible positions they could. I set up hurls for the man. I lined Hunter Orcs up in like groups of 5, and I was like, throw the Hunter Orc, just throw him. Doing that, and then yeah, like you said, Tom got to the position where he was like, "Oh, you're broken. Have to start taking stand fast." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll pick that Hunter Orc there," and just started working through warriors. And the game just basically ended that turn, and it was a beautiful little setup. But yeah, just setting it up so that the game could end exactly when I wanted it to, rather than waiting for it to happen.
You then have the carry on as well with the stabbing and things. Stabbing is the easy way of killing your own dudes, but you then get into the slightly saucier versions of throwing yourself into rivers, blowing yourselves up with bombs, and just generally causing a little bit of carnage. But any way you can to end that game is nice.
I think when people first start, they think, "Oh, I shouldn't be doing that, or like stabbing or looking to end the game or shielding," because I don't know if I certainly felt like at the beginning I was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm just being a bit too cheesy towards the person." It feels a bit grim, but it's very common practice in MESBG, and it's probably something that isn't replicated across different wargaming systems, but it's certainly not frowned upon.
I will say it's probably common practice in competitive MESBG.
Oh yeah, don't do it
if yeah. If you're trying to like do well at a tournament, it's probably fairly common practice. If you're just playing around for laughs, it's probably not.
Maybe not in a narrative campaign.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drown my Frodo so I win.
That's a surefire way to lose any narrative scenario. You plonker. Yeah. So that is managing the end game. I think it's probably one of the first things I certainly try and talk to people about is like thinking about the end of the game, making sure you're on the objectives, when the game ends. Because again, yeah, like you said, from 40k, the scoring will happen like continuously, whereas in Middle Earth it happens right at the end, which throws a few people off as well. But yeah, all right. This is a bit more hard, but knowing what your opponent's army does. There are a few things on it. I always, if I'm playing at an event and I know, like, I haven't played you before, or I will always ask, like, do you know what this stuff does? And the most frustrating thing for me is when someone says, yes, I know what that does, and then like turn 2 goes, whoa, you can do that. Like, you said you knew what it did, and you didn't. If you just asked, I would have told you what it could do. If you don't know, ask. Everyone will explain everything about their army. If someone is like deliberately leaving something out and then catches you out with it later on, they will get lynched. That's not a thing. If you ask a question and so everyone will answer it, like that's a thing. Make sure you know what they do. Make sure you know what their heroes can do. Make sure you know any special rules. Make sure you know what's like go on. One of the things I did very early on is I brought kind of all the books with me to events. And I would have, if I was playing against Rivendell, I would have their heroes open on the table in front of me on the book, so I could see what their special rules do, and I can constantly come back and check, and I can be like, oh, that's interesting. He's only got that. Whatever it may be. And it kind of helps to check. And don't be afraid to just double check when they tell you a special rule. Like, if it seems too good to be true, it might be, unless it's Lake Town.
It's also one of those things of like, if you have an understanding of what your opponent's army can do, you know what you should, like, if you've played a game or two, have an idea or an understanding of what your army can do against that. Yeah. So knowing when you can throw who you can throw your hero against.
Yes, especially the heroes and fight values and things. It's quite a big one. And knowing kind of, so Jordan, you've been playing with the Morannons quite a lot, right?
Have indeed, yeah.
So most of your army is fight 3, but you've got some fight 4 heroes.
Fight 3, got some fight 4, got a couple of fight 5 heroes. Got some special rules that just stuck in your head, like Goroth has 2-handed weapon, but he's burly, which means that he doesn't have to take the penalty for hitting. Hits like an absolute truck. You kind of get to know what your guys can do, and then like just that, like Tom says, that 5 minutes before a game where you just say like, what does that do? What does that do? What does that do about your opponent's army? You can kind of weigh up, right? Okay, so this hero is going to get minced by that hero, but I can send him in there and he's going to do a great job against the troops or whatever.
Knowing like Goroth's special rule with his 2-up orc sacrifice thing, people might go, oh, it's fine, I can get into him and I can flash kill him, and then you go, ha, I've killed him with an orc, he's fine. Can really catch people out.
Yep.
Gothmog's Master of Battle, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just really helps to know exactly what's going on. So don't be afraid to have the rulebook open in front of you and be kind of looking at what their army does. And just generally like having a general idea.
This it comes from playing as many games as possible against different armies, doesn't it? Because you can sit there and read through the army book as much as you want, but it's just, unless you've got super brain powers, you're just not going to retain it. Whereas once you start playing lots of games against lots of different things, it'll come up numerous times. You kind of like start to retain that information about what these things can do, and it kind of it just sort of sticks in your brain. So you kind of end up using the book less for those kinds of things.
I am still really surprised how far a bear can hurl a model. Every time.
They're just so strong.
It's so far. It really like every time. It's just
I've only played bears once and I didn't get hurled. Like thankfully Henry knew it was just a nice casual game against the bears, and he was.
Those things are lobbing them like a good 6 inches, like fairly consistent.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
they're just like pinging models all over the place. It's gnarly.
I think dependent on your experience with your own army, when you come up against an opponent with an army that you've never played against before, you've got no experience of it, and especially if it's got quite a few tricks and things, the likelihood is that you probably will lose to it. just because they'll be able to set up situations where you don't know what you should do in that situation. And we've all stood there over the game table before and sort of like, right, he definitely can't get his bats and his enraged warg into my hero. And you just kind of you think it's all going to be perfectly fine, and then your hero dies because they always find a way. But the more you play against those kind of armies, the more you think, actually, I know what I need to do to counter this. But you shouldn't put too much pressure on yourself the first time you play against something like Sword of Lorien to just do excellent against it, because you probably won't, and that's perfectly fine.
Well, the first time I played Angmar, all 4 heroes I took got killed by Gullivar because I had no idea what a Dead Marsh's Spectre did. And I did the thing that Tom says not to do. And when the guy offered to tell me what his army did, I said, no, just show me as we go. And so he was like, yeah, I'm going to pull your Gothmog that way, and I'm going to throw Gullivar over him. Oh, he's dead now. And then just rinse and repeat. No heroes, no stand fast. Fantastic.
Why would you say such a thing?
Game over in half an hour.
But if how I played a tournament not too long ago against an Angmar list. It was my first time ever playing against Gullivar. I knew what he did. I knew the horror stories. I knew all the stuff. I didn't need anything explaining. But my problem was, because I hadn't played against it, I didn't know how to manage that situation. So I managed to mitigate some of the stuff Gullivar could do. But the player I was playing against, he knew exactly what to do with Gullivar, and just managed to basically exploit the fact that I wasn't sure. I lost. It was Contest of Champions, and I had Narzik as my leader. It was always going to be a loss, but it was a case of just trying to mitigate as much as possible. But now I've played against it, I think the next time that scenario probably wouldn't. But if it was against Gullivar in another situation, I might stand a better chance.
Angmar's such a steep learning curve when you run into it for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, it will tear you apart over and over again. I think monsters do it as well. The first couple of times I played into like a big troll, it absolutely wrecked me. And then you kind of learn that you can just kind of like dance around them a little bit, and things like the Balrog, where like that's a terrifying model to play against as a new person. Then you go, no, you can just kind of feed it a dude at a time, and
I think one of my big learning curves, which I'll shout out to Chris there. I was playing Uglook Scouts a lot, and he was playing Army of the Dead, and I, for a whole number of games really early on, had absolutely no idea what to do, because I just couldn't get any. I couldn't roll a 9 to get any of my guys to charge. They went in and then they just died, and I had no idea how to like play the game and circumvent the fact that he just caused terror. I think that really taught me to start looking at the mission more and being like, what's the end condition? What do I need to do? Because I can't kill them. I couldn't charge them. I've got some shooting, but I'm needing 6s by like 4s or 5s. So it was kind of like having to rethink how I was going to approach the game sort of around that. And I just wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't play lots of games against Chris's Dead.
Yeah, you get used to like how to deal with certain things as well after a while. It's quite nice. Stupid terror.
I've got my first game of Army of the Dead soon.
Yeah, you'll have a great time.
It's fun. It's themey. It's all right.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3 on my list is special strikes. We touched on it a little bit with shielding, but Jordan, gonna give you a little pop quiz here.
No.
What special strikes can your Moran and Orcs do?
They can shield, because I pay for shields on all of them. Other than that, I'm really terrible at this bit, actually. This is the sort of the next part of my learning curve that I need to learn. And I know that if I give them maces, they can bash, maybe. Is that a thing? If I give them picks, they can pierce. And I think if they have swords, they can stab.
Yeah. So I think swords, picks, and maces for bashing. I think are the 3 that Morannons get. They're like swords and picks are like the 2 probably most common. Shielding's not officially a special strike, but yeah, we'll throw it in there. It's fine.
I love it.
But yeah, swords and picks. So swords for stabbing, and it's probably a little bit less relevant with your Morannons because stabbing's going to do that. Hello, Bert.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Love it.
Hey, Bert, we're talking about special strikes right now.
Oh, I love the special strike.
I know you do. It's great.
In what capacity? Can I add anything to this conversation?
Oh, we literally just started.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, getting the most out of special strikes. Stabbing. We talked about a second ago when we were doing managing your end game and how it's really good for like murdering yourself. But if you've got a high defense model like Ben, we use your dwarfs, and you're stabbing, you can stab with D8 and you're fairly safe, or D7 or whatever they are, and things like that, and you just get those reroll ones to wound, which in a game like MESBG where you wound a lot of things on 5s and 6s, getting those small chances to increase your wounding odds is massive because it's such a little thing.
Especially if you can somehow do piercing strikes here as well, especially when you have lower fight value. If you can go like sort of two-handed piercing strike, if you happen to win and kill them, fine. But by and large, you're going to lose the fight, and then you're going to die really, really, really quickly. So that's a nice one to do as well.
Yeah, you're getting your Moran and Orcs up to strength 5 with piercing strikes. Can really give people a bad time, especially if you're playing against like a Rohan army where it's they're all defense 5, or dwarves where they're D7. Some of them, you're getting up to strength 5, and when you tell a dwarf player you're winning them off 5s, they get very upset.
Oh, you just want to go home, don't you? Just want to go home at that point. You're like, why did I bring dwarfs at this point?
And Bash, I'm glad you mentioned Bash, because Bash is one a lot of people forget about, because it's quite niche. But one of the most glorious things I've ever seen at an event is a hobbit bashing a Witch King off his Felbeast.
That's a thing that always catches people out, because I do enjoy bashing with my Grim Hammers against cavalry models, and people are like, no, you can only do that against infantry, and I'm like, oh, sweet summer child, no, we're gonna roll a dice, we're just gonna see what happens. And yeah, I've knocked a Yaznek off a wild before. I've never had the heady heights of bashing a Balrog, sadly, but you can always dream, can't you?
You've got to really dream big for a Balrog.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ability to bash and instantly dismount cavalry and stuff is really great. You also do the bash roll. They're one of the weird ones where you do it before you do the wounds. So if you do knock it prone, you get double strikes, don't you?
Yeah, and that's another one that a lot of people are like, no, you don't, and you're like, I'll get the book out, because it gives you that specific example of like, you do the bash roll, they're then prone, and then you just have a whole bunch of angry dwarves stomping on people's heads.
Yeah, it's really good on things like Rohan charges, where they charge you. You're probably going to die anyway if you lose the fight, so you might as well do a little cheeky bash and knock him off or something. Strength 3 against some Royal Guard D6 or something where you're winning on the 6s. You might as well take the pop at knocking him off, because if you get him on the ground, they're
because all you need to do is it's a dice roll plus your strength, and you just need to get equal or greater.
Yeah.
And as soon as you tell people it's equal to, including, there's a lot of fear in people's eyes. They panic.
I'm going to be bashing a lot more in the future. I'm
so excited for it.
There
runs like an Aragorn into your Morannons. Make sure you get a bashy boy right at the front there and just knock him over.
All bashy boys. Just everyone's bashing now.
Yeah. When they because some people say my Goblin Town boys, I've made sure I've got a few bashies in there and a few other guys. And a lot of people go like, oh, why have you bothered doing the bashing? And then you explain why they do the bashing and things like that. And then like you just see a Rohan player go, oh god, where are they? The whole game they're trying to find them.
They're avoiding them.
Yeah, and they're like, the mind games have begun, so.
But then that Rohan plane is just like, right, so do I take out the basher or the lad that's going to pierce and strike and go up to strength 4? And it's like, you choose, my friend. Which one are you scared of more?
The other big one that everyone kind of overlooks is flails for whirling. No. Everyone overlooks a flail for whirling, but because it's kind of like, oh, it lowers your fight value. It's like, yeah, it does, but what if you got a spear support behind you? And in a game like MESBG, rolling more dice than your opponent is how you're going to win this game. So if you can put a flaily boy into the front of two models in base contact and then get a spear support behind him, instead of you're now getting kind of 3 dice where you would have been only getting 2 if you can flail on the front. And like, yeah, it just kind of helps your maths out across the rest of the battle line. It's quite nice. You end up in like a 3v4 there, but then you get like 4 on 2s further down the line. it's just a little mass thing.
I think flails are quite nice as well as like, especially with goblins. It's like the solo lad on the flank who you know is going to just get like wrapped around potentially or charged by multiple models. It just he's already going to die, but you might as well go out in a glorious way. And if you can get a few extra kills there off of crazy boy with a flail, do it.
Just standing on the end.
Yeah, just absolutely spinning. He's like, go on, charge 5 lads into him. I dare you.
Yeah. And then the one that gives me the biggest like aneurysm is walking past a couple of new people playing, and you've got say like Lothlorien elves where they're fight 5, and you're playing against lads who are only like fight 3, and they're not fainting on the front line for no reason. Just get into the habit of like your entire front line is fainting now, boys. Like always.
It's actually it's amazing how killy that is. Like if you're like again like a strength 3 into like a D5 like Angmar or something, it adds like another like 5-6% like kill rate. And if you're doing 10 fights a turn, that can convert to like 2 extra kills a turn. Even an extra kill once in a while, it feels so good. If it opens up that gap in the line, fainting is just free. Just don't forget it.
Only free if you've got a spear sport. But yes, make sure you bring
or again, fainting to try and lower your fight value less than your opponent, so you're losing fights to manage the end game.
Yeah, there he is. The absolute struggle bus of both people fainting to lower their fight value and using banner rerolls to try and make it go down so you lose the fights. And
That's pure.
There's a wonderful game of Tom's Lake Town versus Majorix where we're both fainting into each other and both bannering to lose fights so that the game carries on. But it really matters. So as silly as it is, if you do look at this up and if you can get an extra turn out of it and that can flip an objective, it matters so much. I really pay attention to it.
There's a reason you see so many people with like random axes glued onto models and things like that. It's special strikes are super important. Make sure you're kind of learning what you can do, making sure you check what your opponents can do, and just generally, having a good time. Jordan, I'm going to start coming up to you and like pop quizzing you on what your special strikes are.
Oh no.
Right. What did we put at number 2 here? Oh, yeah. Stop wasting your might.
I feel targeted.
Oh no. This is definitely targeted at me.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
But this is a good. No, you're Bert and Ben. To be fair, you're both good people to talk to about this. If I'm running like a normal strength 4 hero into like some big dwarf D8 bad boy, my strength 4 hero calls a strike. Are you going to call a strike back?
No, you call a heroic defense.
I depending on the stats of my lad and they're wounding me on 6s. I'm tempted to just take the risk and be like, no, just like crack on. If their hero's on foot, strength 4 with 3 attacks, and I've got 2 wounds and a fate, I'll take the risk and be like, I don't think you're going to roll well enough to kill that hero in one go. And I'll just sit there with my hero and just accept some hits.
Yeah, especially like Thrall where he's D9 as well. You're just like, fine, hit me. See what's going on.
Yeah. Thrall 100% is just sitting there and watching you spend mine. No problems.
It's the strike can be really good. Yeah, but yeah, striking one hero v the other only really matters if if either both or one is capable of one-shotting the other. And if you're the weaker hero and you don't have defense, then I guess you have to strike to try not to be one-shotted. But a lot of the time, it doesn't really. It's like, I won the fight. Fantastic. I've then done no wounds. It doesn't do anything at all. So do think about a cheeky heroic defense in there as well, or use that strike back when you're in a position. Like if you've got Azog trapped, for example, and he's struck, then 100% strike. He's often in pits. He's D5. You've got him trapped, double strikes. that is a moment where you can definitely strike back, and if you win that strike off, you can kill him. Then that's worth doing. But if it's like Dane's walked into you and just gone, yeah, strike, then you're going like, there's just no point.
This is definitely like something that I'm guilty of. The second someone says they're going to strike me, I'm like, yeah, I'm coming back at you, and it's like, why? I do it a lot with Gothmog, and it's like, I'm defense 7. You're probably wounding me on like 6s most of the time. Go for it.
It's one of those, yeah, but with Gothmog, it's kind of one of those. If he's on a warg and he's charged in and they've struck, you go, yeah, if I win the strike off, if it's a man, wound, like 8 strikes, strength 4, yeah, I can probably kill him. Then yeah, crack on. But again, if it is just someone just big, then you just go, fine, deal with it.
Especially when they use their last point of might to call a strike, and you're just there like, I can survive a strike, and now I've got might and you don't, and I can just dictate everything from here on out. That's nice and juicy. Which is the other one, which is moves. I imagine you do it all the time as well, Jordan.
So I do it every turn. If I can try and get a move in, then I'm doing a move. I love a move.
As soon as someone says I'm going to do a correct move, you go, can I do one?
Yeah, I'm over it. I'm in love with it.
Yeah.
This might make me a bad player, to be fair. I very rarely call heroic moves. I run high model armies, so most of the time I'm like, you just call your move and I'll just move the models that you evidently could not tag and like set things up in the way I want to. A lot of the time people look at me like a crazed person. I'm like, no, you call your move, you crack on, off you go. As long as I like know my heroes are safe, know that I'm not putting myself in an awful position by not doing it, I'm usually more than happy for people to call those moves and do whatever they want to do, kind of thing.
It's very often. It's very often people call moves because they've made mistakes in the previous turn.
Yeah.
It's basically I'm going to do this, which isn't great, but then I'll call a move and then I'll win, and then everything will be fine, and it isn't. One of the biggest reasons, again, these lists which have like an Aragorn or a gambling Halith stuff. One of the reasons those like 3 heroics are so good is you can just lose priority, go, yeah, I'm going to call a move, and you can afford it. If your opponent's running like a 3/3 my hero, they go, yeah, I'll call 1 too. You're that great. I'm not going to achieve much with this, but I've drawn a mighty point out, and so the end game, you're 1 shorter. Crack on.
I think if you get good, if you get good at if you just rely on heroes all the time, you'll struggle. But if you get good at just using just your normal troops, you should get better at like you said, Bert, setting yourself up into positions where you don't make the mistakes, where you can feel the need to actually call the move. You can set yourself up, and it comes to the priority, you lose priority roll off, and you're like, actually, no, I don't need to do anything here. I might lose a couple of extra guys just because of it, but it shouldn't be game breaking for me.
I think with Middle Earth, it's like it's the thing that I like the most about it is that you can win most scenarios, like with most armies. There are some that don't match up very well, but like you can lose a game in setup. Like deployment is where you win or lose a game most of the time. If you put something down somewhere stupid, then yeah, you're using that might just to like fish you out of that problem. And that's again just been another massive learning curve. Is like in other games you can be a little bit more forgiven for like deploying a little bit out of place, but in Middle Earth it seems like you really have to like plan what you're going to put down where to make sure that you're not wasting your might.
Oh, there will be. So when I'm helping newer players, one of the biggest things is the player game. Pick out one thing that you've learned from that game, and one mistake, and don't do it again. And I've done this year at 100, where playing domination, I deployed my army on the 12-inch mark, and in turn 1 I went, cool. I done something bad. I'm never gonna kill enough stuff to get on any objectives. I put my army down and I've lost this game. I am never gonna make this mistake again in my life. And again, so I was called out to call all these heroic moves and combats to like try and maximize the kill tally. If I just deployed on the center line, I'm already where I need to be.
I forgot to write it down as one of the things, but what it's semi-covered by this, which is basically Just measure everything beforehand as well. You can, if you have an opportunity, like the amount of times I've seen people go, "Oh, I'm just out of that," and it's like, "What did you check before you did it?" Like, just measure it first. Look at it.
And also, Maelstrom. Do not underestimate the power of spending might to all come in on the same place. If the scenario calls for it. It is well worth spending 4, 5 points, like 700 points. Spend those 4 or 5 might points to get your army all in where you want it. It's efficient for moves. It keeps your army together. It can't be picked off. If you call a march for like hold ground, it moves your whole list. It's so worth spending that might.
If I'm playing recon and I go, "Oh, I'm not going to use a point of might to make it come on earlier," and then wait a turn, and then call a march. Oh, fuming. I've seen people do it, and I'm just like, but if you spent a point of might earlier, you'd have had a whole other turn of moving. Like, I don't understand.
It's amazing what you can accomplish with 3 inches. And that really there we go. It really matters.
Had to lower the tone, didn't he?
Oh, I think that the pre-measuring thing is more common now, but in older game systems, there was a certain etiquette around you just didn't pre-measure things. That was not a thing you did. Whereas a lot of game systems now have adopted that. So I think, if you're playing your game, you shouldn't ever feel bad about being like, before I move any of my models, I'm going to see where my bubbles go, see where my heroes potentially can get to. One of the useful things to do is to bring like a spare base that's replicating the size of your bases as well, to be like, I'm just going to see if I could get through that gap before I move the model. Just preempt, can I do it? And there's no shame and there's nothing wrong in doing that.
I've had a couple of people. I've certainly done it before, where I'm kind of 22 inches away from someone, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna call them march," and then you get to them and you're like, "Oh, I'm still 1 inch away." Bastards! Like, it's completely pointless. Just check it, measure it, make sure you know what you're doing.
I think the sort of like, oh god,
sorry, Jordan, go.
I was just going to say, I think like the bad sort of like etiquette around it comes from like previous editions of like Warhammer 40,000. You weren't allowed to pre-measure. It was in the rulebook. Do not pre-measure. Like, you live with your mistakes, and it's sort of something that might have come ingrained in people, but it's just like,
yeah,
what's the harm in it? Like,
you're either
going to get there or you're not.
It was ingrained in me.
Bolt action and a lot of like historical stuff is very like, you do not pre-measure.
You're
playing it like you're on a battlefield. You declare your shot and then you measure it, and then I'm just out of range.
My favorite example is 8th edition fantasy. If you had like artillery, you had to guess the range of your cannon, and then it would bounce.
It was beautiful though.
Yeah. Oh, it was fantastic.
It was so beautiful.
You could kind of math it out in your head, but like, you weren't allowed to pre-measure it. So it's like,
it was phenomenal because you used to like I'm going to shoot at that unit. I think they are 26 inches away. Then you'd measure 26 inches and that would be where the cannonball landed, and you're like, oh, actually they're like 34, and there's no way it's going to bounce. So that cannon was useless.
Yeah,
it's probably the moment to talk about intent. It's something that comes up in tournament, and you see people going, "Oh yeah, but my intent was to do this." This is where measuring comes in. So, for example, it's things like if you are 12 inches away, well, say 11.8 inches away from being within like the 3 inches of an objective. If you always move things quickly, that's the moment where you can pre-measure. Say to your opponent, I am 2 turns of movement away. There is nothing you can do to stop it. Move him, and then the following turn you can just put him in range and go, he is there. That's how this rule of intent is meant to work. You can pre-measure it. You know it's going to happen. You know that it's there. That you see people using this intent thing a little bit wrong, but things like pre-measuring. If like a board's a little bit off, it's like an inch short. If you're trying to work out how many turns of like crossbow fire you're going to receive in Clash by Moonlight, that's the kind of thing which you can go, okay, you're on this line, I'm on this line. We know that in 2 turns time you can get to here. All happy? Good. And you can know what's going to happen. And mapping that out in your head can be a really good way to work out what's going to happen in the scenario.
Yeah. And it's just having clear communication, isn't it, with your opponent, of being like, I'm not trying to do anything shady. You know exactly what I'm doing. I'm explaining things as I'm doing it. Not obviously not in like a super Gandalf booming voice narrative kind of way, but they know what they know what you're intending to do there. You know, I'm not saying you need to tell them when you're planning on charging into their hero and then doing all these crazy things, but just a simple moving of knowing what everyone's trying to achieve.
It's I think it's recon and stuff where it's really like recon and seize the prize and things where you're just going, it's 2 turns and I'm off the board. We all know that.
Precisely that.
Yeah. Making sure you know exactly. I have 2 movement phases, and then something gets knocked, and now suddenly it's 3 movement phases. You go, no, like we said earlier, it was 2. Like we know it's 2. We all agree it's 2.
Yeah, nice.
And then my number one is just track everything. Write it all down. We did a little bit at the start with managing the end game, but write everything down. So your obvious might, will, fate, and wounds for your own dudes. Do it for your opponent's dudes. Make sure you know what they've got. And the breakpoints, make sure you know how far away you are, how far away they are. Keep a track of everything. With managing your own stuff, one of the things I found quite helpful when I was trying to get myself better at things was to write down, like, not just tracking what might I was using, but having a quick scribble of what I was using that might for. So, for example, I was playing, I put a captain into a list because I wanted to make sure I had March. Then I played like 10 games, never marched with him once. Like, all right, sweet, he's pointless, cool, take him out. Same with things like I was finding I was using strike loads and loads. So then I went back and looked and was like, well, how can I stop using strike as much, or how can I, find a way of doing stuff. It also really helps in game but I'm going to go, I assume you've had this situation happen to you where I'm tracking my might and I'm tracking your might, and I am going through and I'm like, so, I'm going to call a strike with the Goblin King, and you go, no, he's out of might, and I go, no, he's not. I've used 2 might. I used it for a strike on turn 1 and a move on turn 2, and you go, yes, I had him down as a one of these. I'm like, no, we didn't do that. We didn't do that. Didn't happen in the end, or and you can just say to your opponent like, oh yeah, you did a strike then, and then you did a move and a strike, and they're like, oh yes, I did. And it just
the really big ones is when they just like they use it. You both fluff to combat, and they just turn they use a might to turn a 4 into a 5. It doesn't feel like much at the time, so that kind of thing, that kind of thing, they can go missing. But really worth it. Just to track everything that's going on, and also just knowing where on the board these bits are. In a straight battle line to battle line fight, it's not too bad, but especially near objectives. If you know that you have might near an objective, but your opponent doesn't have might, and they don't know it, but you're keeping track, not to hide it, but it is that thing of, I know that next turn I will keep track. You don't need to ask whether Kyrian has 1 might point left or none, or Madrill or whatever. You can just go, I have an Uruk captain there who has a might point with a bunch of lads. You don't have one there. I've got this objective sorted.
That's all well and good until the TO walks past and tells them. Isn't it, Bert?
The trauma.
But yes, that was the exact thing, is knowing when you're tracking your opponent's might, will, and fate and stuff, you don't have to say, you can do the classic bulging thing, which I should probably explain. But if you've got a hero with a higher fight than someone and he goes in, you don't have to then go, just how much might has Aragorn got left? And has he got strike? You can kind of throw your dude in the end. You look down, you see he's got no might left. So you go, cool, I'm going to call a heroic combat, and I'm going to throw him straight into that hero. If you tell them, you go, how much might have you got left? They go, I've got 1 might left. Why? What are you thinking of doing to him? And start looking around. It's a really good way of catching people again, it's not like a gotcha tricky thing. It's just not telegraphing exactly what you're going to do to everyone. You can do some fun bits with it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And knowing when your opponent's likely to break as well, like we said at the start, very, very helpful.
Agreed.
Sweet. Right, we have covered many, many things. So to try and like quickly summarize, I guess, for Bert who joined us late, if anyone else has joined us late or is trying to remember, we talked a little briefly bit at the start about just making sure you play the game a lot, and regularly, and preferably sticking to kind of one army, or the same kind of vibe at least, so you can kind of pick up on what you need to be doing. Maybe you're using Army of Gothmog and you realize that you guys keep running into Terror, so you go, hey, I know what I should do. I should put a Shaman in my list. That would be really good. Or something
Like that actually happened to someone.
Oh boy. Did we talk about the importance of shields for managing the endgame?
Yes.
Cool. Good. They are fantastic. Carry on.
Then we went on into talking about managing the endgame. And when we were talking about that, we talked about the importance of shielding and making sure that you can kind of prolong games, and then also stabbing and failing courage tests with your warriors to help you kind of end the game quicker if you want to. And then take it even further and bombing yourself if you really, really want to. We quickly chatted about knowing what your opponent's army does, having their rulebook open, making sure that you kind of, if someone asked you, do you know what this does? If you don't know what it does, make sure you say, I don't know what it does. Can you please tell me?
Did we talk about the kind of pre-game speech about what your own army does?
No.
It's something that's kind of quite, especially if you do use the same list a lot. It's something that, as far as like etiquette goes, I've kind of got it down. I'm sorry to anybody who's heard it multiple times, but it is that kind of, do you know what my army does? And if they go, well, yeah, kind of, yeah, he does this, you can just go, right, here you are. This is what my list does. And it's that thing of, you can say everything at the start. You can fully explain your list. It gets rid of any kind of gotcha moments. It also tells you yourself what your list does. It can reinforce a game plan. And also means that later on in the game where you go, oh, I didn't know that he did that, you can go, well, I did tell you at the start. And as far as etiquette goes, it's just a nice thing of, this is everything in my list. It's all nice and clear. Go for this. World would be a good place if everybody did that, I think.
One of my favorite pre-tournament prep things I've seen someone do was someone took a list in a different game system and he was practicing how quick he could say everything that was in his list to his opponents, not to like catch them out, so that he could get everything across concisely and not lose any of the time that his game was going to take, because
that was 40k. What it was that 40k?
It was 40k. He had all sorts in that list. He was like relics and everything. He was like, yeah, and I've got this, and this does this, and this does this, and he was practicing on the day how he could go through.
My Lake Town speech is pretty down to an art.
I've got the same thing. I think I played 5 new opponents at City of Kings this year, and it really was like, oh, have you played have you played Assault on Helm's Deep before? And then just going for the whole speech. This is in fact how a bomb works. This is how the ballistas work. I'll talk you through the exact rules for these things, and you can have that one down. But it's just nice for your opponent. It means that you know what's going on. It's a nice thing to do.
Special strikes, we talked about getting the most out of wounding people with feinting and things, piercing strike up to get a higher defense, higher strength, bashing to dehorse stuff, whirling to get extra things. Just generally go and play with them, muss around with them, see what's useful for you, see what's not. Some people like some things, some people absolutely hate other things. Like, it's just muck around with it. Wasting might, calling pointless strikes and moves, that kind of thing. And then just keeping track, making sure you know what's going on.
Can we talk about sort of using might to just kill stuff?
No, No, I was going to talk about a different time, maybe in a future one of these if people like it or not.
Okay. It's one of those weird things where like early on in the game you're told don't just use your hero's might to kill stuff, and then as you kind of go on with the game you go but killing stuff can be really 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 good, so maybe I should start doing this quite a lot of the time. So again, that's one of those very situational things, where sometimes spending that might point to kill that orc warrior can be just a pointless tactical decision, and sometimes can be a work of absolute genius to set up the next play. So do just bear in mind the situation and basically work out what exactly you want to achieve with your might point. Like, what is your heroic move going to achieve? What is killing that one model going to achieve? And if you've always got that, in your mind, then you'll just make better decisions.
The single most triggering thing for when I see people doing it is using points of might on the hit roll.
With Legolas, especially with Legolas when they roll a 1.
Just you're still like a 1 in 3 at best chance of wounding. Like if I told you there's a 66% chance that that point of might is completely wasted, are you going to use it? Probably not. And the other, I suppose, like the other one, which is I forgot to talk about, is if you're playing a game and you come to the end of the game and you go, if that dice roll had gone my way, if that one model hadn't ran away over there, if that one thing had gone, if you're relying on one model staying around on an objective, if you're relying on one dual roll winning, you're probably doing it wrong. Why have you risked it on one courage 2 orc standing on an objective in the back when you could have put 2? When you could have, just yeah. If you find you're losing that kind of thing a lot, double it up. Make sure you've got someone there. Learn from it. That's the biggest one, isn't it?
Yeah, the make a mistake in any game. You will make some mistake, or if you're perfect, you'll see your opponent make a mistake, and just remember it. Remember not to do it again. It can be anything from a really dumb heroic combat to very early on not realizing that you can spend might on maelstrom rolls, like anything like that. Especially when you're new, there is so much that you can learn, and if you just come away from a game going, yeah, well, I got unlucky in it, then that you're just not going to get much better at the game.
I think it's also really jarring because I've had people say it to me before, like, oh, if that draw had gone to me, or like, oh, my dice were just really bad. It's like, yeah, okay, I respect your dice probably were slightly below, but it feels quite negative for your opponent because essentially you're taking away from they played well, they beat you. Give them the credit that they actually deserve around that they did do well. It wasn't a case of the dice just betrayed them. Your efforts as my opponent were completely null and void in this situation. Because it can feel a bit rubbish. Like, give people the credit they deserve on their wins.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm a big fan of after the game asking for like what was the big thing that I did wrong. So I always try and ask my opponent like what did I do wrong this game? Where do you think I lost the game? Or like if I didn't lose the game, what do you think was the moment that you won the game against me? Like sometimes you do have like that game where you play perfectly and you just got beat. Like it's ask the opponent, what did I miss that you saw? And then try and take that into the next couple of games.
But it could be something where they just go, I don't really know. Have you thought about this? And they may just see something that you just. It could be counterintuitive. Like sometimes you can have Legolas on foot, and you just go. They just go. Did you think about sticking him in the front line? And you just go, oh yeah, I know he's the archer dude, and he's really good, but he's also fight 6 and 2 attacks, and there's spear support behind him. And you go, oh yeah, he's going to win all the fights. That's fantastic. Yeah, I should definitely do that all the time. It's that new perspective and just trying out new things. Again, it's something of if you keep flitting around between different lists, you're not going to achieve all that much. If you just stick with one list, it's amazing how much depth you're going to find in one list and little nuances and positions where you can go, oh, I'm going to stop calling marches in this position. I start calling moves. Anything like this, you can just go, huh, okay, that's actually really, really, really good. But I only know this because I kept trying out this one list. So yeah, choose a list, stick with it, get good at that list.
Sorry, I got distracted. I was trying to find a T-shirt that I saw once, but I absolutely no idea. There was a 40k team who went to a tournament, and their T-shirts just said, "Yes, your dice rolling was bad, but that's not why you lost." And it was just a bit like, "Oh,
Yeah, that hurts. That
that's a bit
hurts.
savage."
It's a great T-shirt to win if you know wear if you know you're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
If you're not going to win a lot of games, you maybe don't wear that T-shirt.
Nah, I imagine Bert's gonna make one and wear it now.
I'm a fan of a good t-shirt.
The other thing that you just like skirted around, we're just gonna throw some random ones out at the end now. It's gonna be fun. Was one of the biggest things I see all the time. You know when you play the classic Isengard list of like some warriors, some crossbow dudes, Lurts and Vraskils on it at low points.
Oh yes,
Crossbowmen are Urukai warriors with a crossbow. Archers are warriors with a sword, like the
yes.
have a bow. Vrasku is a 2-attack, strength 5, fight 5 hero. Puts him in combat. Kill some stuff. Like just lob them in combat. Do something with them. The amount of people
It's
who
all-
are like elves and things, and they've got the elves sat at the back, the archers sat at the back shooting. You're like, well, they can't shoot now. You're in combat. It's even worse when you're playing good. Then it takes them 2 turns to get into combat, and by that time your army's already dead. Like
it's having like again the game is quite nicely done where apart from certain scenarios, actually I look at the maths and work out what a block of archers can actually do. Because if your opponent's got 12 archers hitting on 3s, wounding on 6s, you can just go, okay, so I'm losing a model a turn, maybe 2 if I get unlucky. Is it worth hiding out behind this building for 3 turns? No, just get up in their face. Archery can be really, really, really great at if your archery is better than your opponent's, then you can control where an engagement happens. But don't let it completely control what you do in response to it. It's not even like Urukai crossbowmen. They're really, really, really good for sure. They're killing 1 dude in 6 a lot of the time. If you're D7, it's even less. So don't just see a block of 10 archers and go, oh my god, that's so scary. Just get right up in their face.
I'm gonna be that guy who has that who says the words. You just need to play it for fun. You need to play the game to enjoy playing the game. Winning is really nice, and everyone does enjoy winning. But if your entire mental focus, obviously like top level tournament play, fair enough. But if you're just turning out your local community thing, winning is nice, but your focus should be on having a fun time with an army that you like playing with. Don't just play an army for the sake of it. Play with what you like playing with because you'll find that you just learn things quicker. You pick things up because you like how it works. You know, I love running Ugluk scouts because I get loads of lads. They all move really far. They're terrible at some things, but it doesn't matter because I always come away having had a good time because I just flood the board and just run stuff around and do all the big sprints, and it's always enjoyable.
Everyone here has that guy at their local club who always seems to have like the latest meta army or even like meta deck in other games and things like that. And it's sure you've got the latest deck, the latest army, but do you know what you're doing with it? And you'll see people who have come in and are stuck with one army significantly outperforming people who are using the current hotness because they don't really know what they're doing with the current hotness. Whereas the guys who've learned exactly how to use them are really good with them.
Yeah, and you can always see an army where it's someone's passion project, and you can just see in their eyes they are having the best day out, playing with the heroes they love, playing with the army they love, and that in general is just a pleasure to play against as well. Even if you're getting absolutely battered by it, that passion that they have conveys across to you, and that I always come away feeling wonderful. And I know Jordan mentioned it, but like playing against Henry, every army that man plays, he adores. He just adores them. He's there to have fun. He has an absolutely great time, and you can get completely battered by him, and come away being like positive experience.
Playing Henry's Woses, like that man makes Woses work. Like he absolutely obliterated my Army of Gothmog with his Woses, and like he was sat there like, oh, they're not very good, but I love them, and they've all got this, and they're a bit crap, but absolutely demolished me because he's played them loads. And like to build on Ben's point, like the advice that I would give like an person at the shop first purchase, just buy your favorite hero from the films. Just pick it. Like I started with Army of Gothmog because it was in the starter set, and yeah, like Gothmog's an absolute badass. But my next project is Lurtz's Scouts. Everyone says Ugluk Scouts is better, but Lurtz is just the coolest guy in the Lord of the Rings. Like he's so bad at the fact he almost kills Aragorn, and he's like terrible in the game. Like he should have like 12 might, because no one comes close to killing Aragorn like Lurtz does, and he's the coolest character. And I played one game with them, and I fell in love immediately and spent all my money on it.
I mean,
So,
why
like,
does Boromir have 6 might when Lurtz kills him? You know,
exactly.
Lurtz should have 7 might. You know,
Lurtz should have all of them. Like, and
it's one of those things as well. Bolg doesn't head him, right? I just want to say on that thing, because I'm pretty sure Bolg loses every single fight he's in the film. Every single fight he's in, he loses. Why is he fight 7? He's crap.
Yeah. He gets beat up all the time.
Yeah.
Lurtz should have 2 fate, because frankly, like he gets killed and then pulls the sword into himself. Like he's taken some hits and he's still going. Where's the feel no pain? Yeah.
I love that. Yes, it's one of the things I say to people when they are talking to us in the shop about like the new game and like what should I pick up? The very first question always comes out of my mouth is, are you buying the army because of how it plays in the game, or are you buying it because of how it because it's cool? Because you're buying it because it's cool. Buy whatever you think is the coolest army. If you care about like play style and because that's like a lot of people come across with other games are like, well, I want to play a tanky army. Don't really. They're like, cool, you want to play a tanky army? And then do you like, what's your favorite bits? Do you like the dwarfs? Do you like Eastlings? Do you like those Tyrith? Like you can make those kind of things all tanky. Like, do you want to be a good guy? Do you want to be a baddie? Do you want to be like, you know, like work through it that way? Or just who's your favorite character? Who's your favorite this? Have a lovely time with them. You can have
you invest so much time into a hobby. Like I read a cracking article a few years ago where it was like it's one of the strangest hobbies going, because you spend 90% of your time in the hobby sat by yourself in a room painting and building your models, to then go and spend 10% of your time actually interacting with people and playing that hobby. And do you want to invest all of that amount of time into a thing that you don't enjoy painting, you don't like the look of them, and when you actually play them you win but you're not actually having fun? It just doesn't seem. Just do what you enjoy is the key thing.
No.
I've said it so many times. I'm like, I'm using if you see me using Goblin Town, I'm playing for fun. If you see me using Lake Town, I'm playing to win.
My cousin's just bought like the Mordor Star set because his favorite character in the Lord of the Rings is the Witch King. So and that is a difficult model to start learning to play with. Like Ring Wraiths, I started trying to use them and they blew my mind with how they just died consistently. But when I said to him, what's your favorite model? What's your favorite character? Witch King. Great. Get the Mordor Star set. Like, just make him work for you.
It was one of the reasons why I kind of felt bad. So when I went to my first tournament, I absolutely adore the Two Towers, and the Battle of Helm's Deep is it's just the coolest scene in any movie ever. And we went to my first tournament. I had no idea what the meta was. I had no idea what was good. But I thought Urukai and Ballistas were cool. I really did. I'm not kidding. And I turned up and people were like, oh, are you that guy? I went, yeah. Doesn't it look awesome? And it was in like round 5 where I played in a ball with like no terrain at all. I went, yeah, now I can see it. But even though the results came and went, I was there just going, I just something about this list and the way it plays, and like my favorite scene for the movie, it's good fun. Now I play the other side, and it's just there, and it's cool, and heroics happen, and it's just the best. And it means that you can keep playing that one list for a long time, and you work out the nuances, and it's just so much. It's just so much fun. So yeah, really, play the game out of love. If you play this game out of love, it's such a cool community, and you can never let go of it. My only regret is not playing more events. It's just the best.
That's the thing that like
people have the kind of hang up about. So I try to avoid the word tournament a lot, because people have this thing where they come across from like other game systems where they see a tournament and they think it's going to be, sweaty and everyone's going to be super try hard and yada yada yada. But if you come to Middle Earth events, you'll see that they're fairly chilled out compared to other game systems you might have played in. They are a lot of fun. Like most people are there for a good time. There'll be a few people who are there to push it a little bit and try and win. But after about game 1 or 2, you'll never see them because they'll be at the top, playing with the other people at the top. But the vast majority of people playing this game are playing the game for fun, to have a nice time, and you just get to hang out with people and have a lovely time. Like it's great for that.
I suppose the other great thing about like this particular game system is that like everyone who's playing it loves Lord of the Rings. So like you've immediately found someone you've got something in common with because they like the same films you like. You can just talk to them about the films while you're playing the game. You can be like, "Oh, that's a really cool Aragorn paint. Oh, I love Aragorn. He's really cool." Like, it's just a great connector as well. So,
I had a wonderful moment recently where the entry music for my wedding was an organ arrangement of Concerning Hobbits.
Nice. I thought you were going to say the Isengard tune.
That was the way out. No, it was that moment where I was just standing there watching her come up the aisle. I was going, I really should be watching my wife, but I'm also looking at the 4 lads from the GBHL who have made it to my wedding, who are all looking at me going, nice, really nice. and you'll always have that, and that's just a really great, beautiful time. Meet people in this community. They're a really good bunch.
You also
kind of like wrap-uppy point, I guess. It was just like one last thing. I haven't mentioned them today, but I like mentioning them because they're nice lads. The lovely Longshanks people, I do like to mention them a lot because they're definitely not a sponsor, but they're just cool guys. If you can use this website to track your casual games and things, I'm going to try and like minimize everyone's faces because I can't see it. Whoop, there you go. So this is a website. This is Ben, who's currently talking's thing. You can track all of your games on it. You can keep track of all of the games that you're having, and then you can come in and you can see the armies that you're doing well with, the armies that you're not doing well with. And if you press this graph, you can see that because Ben has played lots of games with Hunter Orcs and Uggok Scouts, Ben is winning lots of games with Hunter Orcs and Uggok Scouts. Good job,
Ben's played Defenders.
Yeah, it was a brief flip. It was a brief flip.
You played it once and lost it once. Look.
Yeah, obviously didn't go well.
He didn't love the models.
My Azog Hunters, I have played 50 games with them this year.
Wow.
So far. And I'm still not bored of them.
You can see Ben also clearly needs to learn how to play some scenarios. Like
Contest of Champions.
Yeah, just so the Contest of Champions is because I always take Narzug as my leader. He's just never gonna. I've won one game, I think, and it wasn't on Longshanks in Contest of Champions with Narzug.
And you're really good at capturing control.
Oh, it's because it's an elite scenario,
control,
isn't it?
Destroy supplies.
Yeah.
Retrieval, 100% win rate. That's my boy.
Yeah.
Wow, 5 games of it. Good man.
We just love Felwargs. But the reason is that I have done well on all of those is because I love movement above everything else in the game. And I love moving my Felwargs around, love using my Uruk-hai around. And those are the games that let me do that. And they're the ones that I typically will enjoy the most because I get to just play on every corner of the board.
I cannot use hordes. I mean, I use hordes, but I cannot win lords.
Yeah.
You're really good at heirlooms.
Me?
You've lost 1 game of heirlooms.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just always rolls the 6.
That only lost it on heirlooms was to Henry.
Oh, was that in your league game this league? Wow. Wow.
But it's only this
Tennis is
year,
so
obviously
good.
there's more. But yeah. So yeah, it's just a useful way of like keeping track of everything. I think you have to pay like £1 a month to see statistics. But like it's like £1 a month. Like, yeah. And you can play around and stuff. Oh look, apparently Rangers of Mercury are my best army. That's exciting.
With your 100% win rate in
On one game.
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just a really useful tool. It's longshanks.org. You can track all kinds of stuff on it, which is nice. But yeah, Ben, is there anything you want to say before we leave the nice people?
Just my final point is you don't have to play competitively with MESBG. If you want to rock up and want to play just casual games, especially in our community, tell people in advance. They will bring a fun list. They'll bring their passion project and they'll play that game. And you don't have to be grinding out tournament style games all the time. People play the game because they enjoy the game, not just for the tournaments.
Oh, the turn zero conversation before you even get to wherever your local club or shop is of like, right, I am bringing Black Riders and I'm practicing for a tournament. Is that going to be a vibe that is okay? I am bringing 50 hobbits and I want to mess around. Is that going to be a vibe that's okay? Like, there's been too many times where I've turned up at a mate's house and I'm like, I brought this army for fun. And he's like, I want to sweat it out with this tryhard tournament list. Yeah, make sure you talk to your buddies.
Yeah, and people are always really accommodating. If I play new players, I'm not bringing Hunter Orc because it's just no point. They won't have a good time and I'll feel terrible in the process. I'd much prefer to bring like Khazad-dûm because I really like these.
Ben played Khazad-dûm in my second ever game of Middle-earth and in my partner's third ever game of Middle-earth. So yeah, really nice guy, really nice, helpful.
I brought Cave Troll, so
you did, yeah. In my fourth game or third game or whatever, it was just after I played Ben. Ben really softened me up for you to just throw my orcs everywhere.
But have you got a closing final thing, people?
I think just make sure you know what you want to get out of the game. There's a whole variety of things. And again, I think this is go to events. Just participate. These events are just so many fantastic people, and you'll find people on a similar vibe to yourself. I do make vague attempts at playing the game more competitively. Next year it may go vaguely well. Who knows? But there are people who I can go, yeah, let's play like a fun competitive game. They go, yeah, that's absolutely fine. No problem at all. And that works. But you meet these people. You build a network by going to events and going for a beer afterwards and just having a laugh. If you're battering your opponent, buy him a pint. It's amazing how well that can go down. Just have a chat. Just really, these are people. Just go and have a fun time. You can get battered and still have a good time. You can batter someone and still have a nice chat afterwards. They're just cool people who like playing toy soldiers. Go have fun.
Jordan, you got any fun?
I think mine would just be like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Like, if you want to get better, find a local gaming group, and maybe you'll be lucky and you'll have like people who go to a tournament regularly. Play the best people you can play. If you want to get better, don't be afraid to play the sweatiest lists because you'll learn how to come against them if you do decide you're going to go to tournaments. But also just like do it for fun. Like, if you find that you are losing every game and you're burning yourself out, don't be afraid to just say like, I want to play a casual game where it doesn't really matter if I win. But yeah, if you're gonna go to try and be like on the more competitive side, you do have to put yourself out there and you do have to find people that are better than you, and they're just gonna beat you. Accept it, learn what you can, and like really like ask for the feedback. Just put yourself out there.
I think the point there is just be open to learning.
Yeah.
If you're newer to the game, you have a huge amount to learn. It is one of these wonderful, easy to learn, hard to master games, and embrace that. you come in with an open mind. As long as you come in with the I'm likely going to lose, I'm fairly new to this, what can I learn? Then you'll have a good time. If you come into it, I think like Ben said earlier, if you come into it going, well, this game's fun if I win, and you lose. If you just go, oh well, this game's rubbish, I hate it, then yeah, you have a bad time. If you just go, right, but let's try and work out what happened, talk to my opponent. It's the start of beautiful relationships. When Tom and I first met, that wasn't a particularly great matchup, but we had a chat. We're still mates. It all works. Ish.
Within my first 5 games, I was playing in like a pre-league tournament. It was casual, but like I found myself like first 5 games, pre-league tournament, lost every game, had a great time, brilliant day, got to meet loads of people, and now, chat to a load of them regularly. Like, talk to Ben most weeks. Always
Daily,
nagging.
Jordan. It should always be daily. I expect those good morning messages.
It is more regular than I talk to Leah some days. So
I just on the if you are looking for people, if you're on Facebook, go to the Great British Hobbit League on Facebook. Or if you're in Australia, I don't know, the Last Alliance of Losers Men have a Facebook group. And if you're in somewhere in Europe, I'm sure they have many. I don't really know, but there'll be a Facebook group for like your community. Start off by typing in like Middle Earth, Swindon, and seeing what comes up. If nothing comes up, go to like Middle Earth England, Middle Earth Wiltshire. Something will come up. Get in there and just start like shouting out people. You'll be amazed at how many people. So we've been playing into it. Like, they've got a group of us that have been around for like 5 years or so now. We've been doing various YouTubey things. We've got loads of events happening. We've now got the shop and everything as well. You'll be amazed at how many people kind of turn up and go, I didn't know people in Swindon played. Like, we've got a league of like 35 people. Like, there's a load of us. Come join us. It's just like some bloke who's just been playing on his garage with his one mate, and now he's walked in one day and now there's like 35 people, friends to play with. Like, there is so much more out there. Go and find some people. If you ask, if you don't know where to find people, someone else will. Like, the amount of times I see people post up, be like, "Oh, I'm in London. I'm looking for people." I'm like, Curtis, go talk to him. So we everyone knows people now who've been out to events. We can point you in the right direction. We will help find people. Everyone wants you to play the hobby and enjoy it. I think one of my things is even if you are playing against the same people over and over again, or you've only got 1 or 2 people locally who do play with you, spend some time on just put it on the background while you're painting, but put a couple of battle reports on or something, and just watch a couple of videos and see what other people are doing in their armies. However, remember that if they're filming a battle report, they're also trying to film something and play the game, so it might not be perfect. Because that's one of the biggest things that people say, I saw on the video, but this is how it works. No. The amount of mistakes we still make with armies that we've been using loads and loads and loads on battle reports because you're trying to do 5 things at once. It's not the perfect example of high level play. If you want something like that, you'll have to go and watch some of the less entertaining, but the Arda Unleashed battle reports from a little while ago that are on the Zorbazorp channel, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or some old ones from Ardacon, where what's his name? The Scandinavian guys. But
God, Andreas, Norwegian Viking.
Yes. STF, wasn't it?
STF Wargaming. He does a grand campaign of every single scenario.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Those guys have got serious setups, so when they film, it's a lot easier. So you can catch up on the game. I think the Arda Unleashed ones have full commentary and everything on the games. There's the Ardacon from a couple of years ago where they have the J. Claire Kylie game and things are up there where someone else is filming the games. So you get, because someone else is filming, you get to see proper competitive play and stuff, which is quite nice. You can pick up on things that people do, and just generally expose yourself to the hobby.
It's one of those things where, by and large, people who do this stuff, if you don't really know anybody and you pluck up the courage to go to an event and you happen to see somebody, as long as it's not last 10 minutes of a tense game, do just go up and say hi. They'll go, hey, I love Atomic Cards, Any Heroics, Gollum's Gamers Podcast. Just
No
go
one will
up.
say that.
No one likes the Gollum's Gamers Podcast. Just go. If you don't know people, just go up, say, hi, I know you from this. I've liked watching your stuff. Most of us are fairly friendly. Just come and say hi, have a chat about your event. We all like talking about toy soldiers. We want to meet new people and find out what's going on. So
I
please,
played someone who'd use an army list but they copied off one of our videos once. He said, I saw you play with it, it looked like a lot of fun, so I've copied it. And I was like, yeah, it's my guy.
I tried meeting Ed Ball, and I wanted to go, good afternoon, I'm Bert. I have a vague idea who you are. Is it okay if we have a chat? Instead of what I went, see, you're Ed Ball. And then we had a chat for 45 minutes, and now we're friends. Just do it. It's good fun. Go and talk to the humans.
The person who got me into Army of Gothmog was actually Dewey. Before I'd ever met him, I just typed it in on YouTube, and his video was like the most watchable video that breaks it down. I then bought stuff off Dewey, and I've got my first game against Dewey tomorrow.
Who's Dewey?
Yeah, Dewey Evans.
The Guardians of Wiltshire.
Yes, Guardians of Wiltshire.
Yes, silly Billy.
But I've met him at a couple of events now. I've seen him at Tom's shop before. Met him at
TonicCars.co.uk if you need any game supplies.
And just really nice guy. Like, and it was it felt weird saying to someone who's like just a normal guy, like, oh my god, I watched your YouTube video and blew my mind. Like, put me onto Army of Gothmog. Thank you. Like, but it was pretty cool about it.
You're famous on the internet too.
Hi, J Mac.
Right. Thanks for sticking around with us, guys. Hopefully we'll see you at an event soon. Love you. Bye.
Well, last evening. Bye.
Bye.